operated today by Greg, Golf Zero Golf Uniform Bravo, serving as net control for the RAYNET-UK weekly activity net. This net meets each Sunday afternoon at 1600 hours local time and is open to all amateur radio operators interested in emergency communications. The primary purpose of the net is to provide the opportunity for members to test equipment, exchange traffic, news, opinions and information. Additional information about the organisation can be found at www.raynet-uk.net. This is a directed net, which means all calls are to be made to the control station unless you're instructed otherwise. And when you do check in, please do give your call sign slowly and phonetically, followed by your name. And if you wish to leave the net immediately after checking in, then please call in and out. Otherwise, if you want to leave after subsequent turns, then please make it clear you want to leave at that time. After I've heard a few check-ins, I'll repeat what I've heard. If you're not acknowledged, then please do try again, and I will be calling for any strays, that's people who've missed their turn to call in, at the end of the UK stations and the international stations slot. So, I'll now begin taking check-ins to the RAYNET-UK weekly activity net as usual in call sign number order, starting with stations with figure 8. Figure 8 in their call sign, so please call now. This is G4 and RC, over.
Golf 8 Echo Echo Yankee, G8 EEY, name is Mike.
G4 and RC, good afternoon Mike, Golf 8 Echo Echo Yankee. Any other 8s please, G4 and RC, over. No more 8s, then let's go for 7. Stations figure 7 in their call sign, please go ahead. G4 and RC, over. Golf 7, Charlie, India, Yankee, name is Keith, and no traffic, part of a Suffolk group. Mike, Romeo 7, Alpha Victor Oscar. E4 and RC, good afternoon Keith, Golf 7 Charlie India Yankee, Charlie India Yankee, and Dave, who is playing Nuisance Chaos, Mike Romeo 7 Alpha Victor Oscar. Good afternoon Dave, any other 7s please, G4 and RC, over. G798, Golf 7 November Echo Hotel. Golf 7 November Echo Hotel, good afternoon Graham, already knew you there, courtesy of the stream. So, G798 acknowledged, let's go for 6s, stations figure 6 in their call sign, please go ahead, G4 and RC, over. G4 and RC, second call for any stations figure 6 in their call sign, please go ahead, over. G4 and RC, then it's stations figure 5 in their call sign, please go ahead, G4 and RC, over. G4 and RC, since we don't have many 5s, go straight to 4, stations figure 4 in their call sign, please go ahead, G4 and RC, over.
G4 and RC, G4KUG, Trevor in Watford, and lots of audio not getting through to me this afternoon, but seeing stations on the dashboards from G4KUJ.
G4KIL, Philip Sussex. G4 and RC. Okay, so Trevor, Golf 4 Kilo Uniform Juliet, copied. You say you've got audio loss, Trevor. You're showing 3% packet loss on the Brandmeister side of the bridge. Philip, Golf 4 Kilo India Lima, however, loud and clear, and no packet loss. Any other fours, please? G4 and RC, over. G4 and RC, that's a nope, so let's go stations figure 3. Figure 3 in their call sign, please. G4 and RC, over.
Golf 3 Zulu Hotel X-ray, Ian.
G4 and RC, good afternoon, Ian. Golf 3 Zulu Hotel X-ray. Any other threes, please? G4 and RC, over. G4 and RC, that's a no, so let's go for the twos. Stations figure 2 in their call sign, and that includes the intermediate twos. G4 and RC, over.
2 Echo 0 Charlie Mike Sierra, calling from Midway, in and out. Hey, please, Greg.
To Echo 0, Charlie Mike Sierra. Good afternoon, Colin. Copied you in and out. Any other twos, please? G4 and RC, over. G4 and RC, nothing seen or heard, so it's ones. Stations figure 1 in their call sign, please go ahead. G4 and RC, over.
G1 RBO Tony. G1 RBO Tony.
G4 and RC, good afternoon, Tony. Golf 1 Romeo Bravo Oscar. Any other ones, please? G4 and RC, over. G4 and RC. Okay, number ones. Here we go for the zeros. Mike 0 stations. Mike 0 stations of any regional secondary identifier. Please call now. This is G4 and RC, over.
Mike 0 Mike Foxtrot Sierra, Drew, West Devon.
Les from Loughborough.
M0 Charles East Suffolk Island.
Whiskey X-ray Golf, Shirley in Cornwall, in and out. Thank you, Greg.
Mike India Tango Andy, also Shirley in Cornwall, in and out. Thank you, Greg.
G4 NRC returning. Okay, so I've got Drew, Mike 0, Mike Foxtrot Sierra, Les, Mike 0, Juliet Victor Sierra Zulu, Mike 0, Juliet Victor Zulu, Alan, Mike 0, Juliet Sierra Alpha, all staying with me, and Shirley, Mike 0, Whiskey X-ray Golf, and Andy, Mike 0, Indian Tango Mike, both in and out. Thanks for checking in though, guys. Any other Mike 0 stations of any regional secondary identifier, please? G4 and RC, over.
Mike 0 Tango Golf Charlie, David East Devon, and out, please, Greg.
G4 and RC. Okay, David, Mike 0 Tango Golf Charlie, copy to you in and out, and good afternoon to you. Okay, Golf Zero stations of any regional secondary identifier, please. G4 and RC, over.
Golf Whiskey 0, Juliet Lima X-Ray. Name is Andy, Raynet, Pembrokeshire. Good afternoon, Greg. No traffic today, so in and out, please. Over.
G4 and RC, good afternoon, Andy. Golf Whiskey 0, Juliet Lima X-Ray, copy to you in and out, which has the misfortune of making Alan M0J say the possibly last station on the net, unless there's any takers to the next two calls. So any more Golf Zero stations of any regional secondary identifier, please. G4 and RC, over. G4 and RC, nothing heard. So are there any UK stations who missed their turn to call in? Any United Kingdom stations who missed their turn to call in, please call now. G4 and RC, over.
M0OES, M0OES. This is Ian in Liverpool. Standing by.
Mike 0 Oscar Echo Sierra. Good afternoon, Ian, and greetings to Liverpool. So that was any UK stations missed. Let's go for the internationals now. Do we have any international check-ins, usually from Nodsamband in Norway, Aaron in Ireland, Aries in Slovakia? Please call now. G4 and RC, over. G4 and RC, no international takers, so let's just take any stations who've missed their turn to call in. Please call now. G4 and RC, over. G4 and RC, no takers. Okay, that's 17 check-ins, just over the 1% of RAYNET membership, which is about our usual average. So good afternoon all. A reminder that the net is being streamed by Graham, G7NEH to YouTube today. The live stream and recording are available by searching G7NEH, that's Golf 7 November Echo Hotel, on YouTube. For those who haven't seen it on Facebook, due to an unforeseen medical emergency, registrations will be closed for a few days. So please bear this in mind if you've made a recent inquiry. Seems to have taken effect from the 3rd of May, so if you were on time with your membership renewals, then you might be okay. If you were late with your membership renewals, then we are going to have some problems we've got to try and resolve. So just a heads up on that one, and I will republicise when registrations comes back into service again. And the talking point question, as we go into event season, a question slightly prompted by some events today. Do you read the briefing notes for the events you attend? Saying this because I had a HFNet today where the message that went out had got a conflict of dates and nobody noticed it, and one person actually challenged it after the scheduled net was meant to happen. But other stations know that the HFNet is weekly and happens on certain frequencies and therefore just showed up in the right place at the right time. So how do we pick up on things that have changed, or do we challenge anything we read that's wrong? So with that as the first round talking points, let's see what we've got from the population. Golf 8 Echo Echo Yankee, over to you, Mike. G4 and RC, over.
G4 NRC from G8EEY. Well, as you know, Greg, I never read anything and I never try to correct anything, so no, I usually write my own briefings, but it's always nice if somebody else reads them. But I do tend to try and find out what's going on. Weather here, 17.3 degrees C, 1,017 millibars, 88% relative humidity, 48% cloud cover, 2.5 miles per hour wind from 17 degrees, so quite a pleasant day. Unlike Friday afternoon, where over the top of Norwich it was almost dark at 4 o'clock, and a very interesting stormy light show. But otherwise, not too bad. Sorry to hear that there's a problem with registrations. I hope things will be sorted happily in the end. From G8EEY.
8 Echo Echo Yankee G4 and RC returning. Okay, yeah, for the benefit of everybody else, Mike is joking. He checks everything that comes out. So the Friday news that comes out is usually pretty much proofread by Mike before the rest of the COM get to it. Just for procedural points, that somebody blipped in, I will call in any stations again at the end of this round if there's anybody missed their turn on the various check-ins over the last 15 minutes. But fine, okay, thanks Mike. Next to Keith, Golf 7 Charlie India Yankee, with the observation that your first transmission had 4% packet loss on the Brandmeister side of the bridge. So hopefully, Keith, that will improve this time. G7CIY, G4 NRC, over.
Okay, yeah, Golf 7 Charlie India Yankee. Sorry, yeah, I did no traffic, but not a problem. Yeah, good to hear you, Greg. Long time no speak. Hope you and the family are well. Yeah, I think the biggest day into with briefing documents and operational papers that go out to the groups is copy and pasting from last year. I think that's probably the because a lot of events may be on a regular basis. And sometimes dates forget to get changed, whereas they'll change the manning order, but you forget to change the dates of the event. So that's probably the biggest thing to worry about, I suppose. But yeah, no worries. Well, I'm coming through Golf Bravo 7 Alpha Lima, which is a few miles away from me. So and I've got a good signal from the repeater, so I'm not sure why there's a packet loss. But anyway, no further traffic, Greg, and thanks for running the net. Back to you, G4NRC, Golf 7 CIY, over.
Seven CIY G4 and RC. Okay, interesting. You're coming in through GP7AL. Was it 5% packet loss that time? You're on frequency. It's just dropping some packets. Keith, just confirm you're out on this one. No further traffic. Felt like that was an out on this one. So 73s, G7CIY, G4 and RC, over.
Yes, no further traffic. Thanks very much. 73.
G7CIY, G4 and RC. Okay, thanks, Keith. 73s. And next to Dave, Mike Romeo 7 Alpha Victor Oscar, who did get the prize for spotting the error in the HF team reminder email within 5 minutes of me posting it, but then we've just watched other people catch up slowly through the rest of the 24 hours. Mike Romeo 7 Alpha Victor Oscar, G4 and RC, over.
G4 and RC, Mike Romeo 7 Alpha Victor Oscar. Yes, Greg, I was just sat at the computer yesterday afternoon when the email pinged in, and well, of course, I do take 100% notice of all the briefing notes that you send out. Absolutely 100%. Weather in Council, which is not too far from you and Grey on G7AH, somebody's just turned the sun off. Half an hour ago, I was sat out at a friend's house on the patio, enjoying the sun, just up on Council Hill there, not far from our house. And it was beautiful 20 degrees, and it's just disappeared. So whether we're having a turn of weather here in Cheshire. I don't know what it's been like with yourself there, Greg. Mike 7, Alpha Victor Oscar.
Mike 7, Alpha Victor Oscar, G4NRC. Yes, let's go in reverse order. Yes, it has turned quite sharply here. It was quite pleasant before and actually made it feel like a bank holiday weekend for a while. But looking at it, I'm now wondering if there's anything I need to bring in from outside before possible rain. In terms of briefing notes, Dave might remember last year's Chester Marathon where I put briefing notes out for our group and then had a station call in on the net who got halfway to the control point, not actually gone to his allocated checkpoint. So there is a bit about you can issue them, but you can't be sure anybody's read them. But cutting and pasting, for Keith's comment, is also a bit like you should have a standard format for the briefs so people can read the bit that matters, and some of the things that aren't quite so important can be further down the page, but how do we highlight the changes in a suitable manner, of course. Okay, thanks Dave. Next to Graham and today's YouTube count, which might be a bit lower again because of a bank holiday weekend. G7NEH, G4NRC, over.
G4NRC, G7NEH, returning. Good afternoon, Greg, and good afternoon to all on the net. And last week's YouTube viewing count was quite low, actually. 14 views and 2 likes. I'm just away from the screen at the moment, but looking at this week's current views, we're nearly matching that, so quite a good turnout today. So we'll see how we go. Not much to report this end. I set the Mobilink TNC up before, and all that works fine. So looking forward to trying that out in anger, so to speak. So there we go. With that, back to you, G4NRC, G7NEH.
G7NEH, G4NRC returning. Okay, thanks for the figures. I'm suffering slightly too many bank holidays in quick succession, so this is a phony weekend for me. But I have actually got a few more things done compared to last one. Good, you've got the Mobilink TNC. I was thinking of putting APRS on later to see what's going on. But it also provokes possibly the second round question, stolen from the Ham Radio Workbench podcast, of what's on your workbench. Because while you've got the Mobilink TNC, I got 2 Microtik, however you want to say it, 2.4 gigs access points, with a view to having some slightly wider area AREDN playing if possible. So loads of toys, still short on time to play with it all. Right, Trevor, let's see how your audio loss issue is getting on. G4KUJ, G4NRC, over.
G4NRC in the group, G4KUJ. Yeah, afternoon, Greg, and everybody else. Well, that was very strange. I've got 3 routes into 23531 at the moment. There's the link through the YSF server, and then I've got 2 Pi-Star devices going into the RAYNET server. And one of those is a simplex one. I'm using the little handheld. And the other one is the duplex one with the board that's got the effectively a repeater on dummy load. And what I was getting was all of the signals were showing up on the displays for their call signs, but there was no audio or very broken audio on all of them. And then when you got to calling in the G1s, it all went all okay on all 3 access routes. So I haven't got a clue what that was, Greg, from G4KUJ.
G4KUJ, G4NRC. Well, you're showing 1% packet loss at the moment. This is where some good metrics on your internet connection help in case there was any latency or anything else like that that might have been throwing things out. It's a long time since I've actually put the Andrews and Arnold dashboard up on my own broadband here to watch for any issues as we go through. That was more of the thing when we were doing the nets in the middle of COVID, where there were worries about who was or where the issues were coming from as people were checking in. However, good that time. Let's see if it stays that way. Next, with good audio this week, Philip, Golf 4 Kilo India Lima, G4 and RC, over.
For NRC from G4KIL. Thanks very much. That's good to hear. The fairly basic setup this time, so hopefully that's working well. It sounds like it is. Yeah, a few comments on things that have been said. Here's our Sussex. We had our first event last weekend, and that went well. Particularly thanks to some folks from neighbouring groups that did come and help us out, because we would have been a bit challenged if that had happened. So thanks for those. Last time I was on, I think I was discussing trying to encourage people to move from Zoom to Teams. We did have our monthly South Sussex meeting, an online one where we started in Zoom and moved to Teams. That did seem to work reasonably well. Not that we had a lot of attendees, but those who did, I think, all managed to get onto the Teams okay. And thanks, I think it was Greg, you'll give us a steer that it was going to be easier to get in with just emails now. That did help, I think, quite a lot. Our second event is coming along on the 21st of May. I'm not quite sure at the moment whether we're short of people or not for that, but yeah, perhaps I'll let you know in a week or so's time if that is the case. Yeah, mentions about the HF. Apologies for not being up on the HF net. Midday Sunday is not great for me, and unfortunately Wednesday evenings are not great for me either. And I think neither are Friday evenings. I think it's going to take me more or less out until August, so I'm likely not to be around much till then. Apologies for that. Yeah, I mentioned about the briefing notes and reading them. Because I did get the one this time. To be fair, I only glanced at it very quickly because I didn't think I was going to get on. So I guess that would be my excuse. I think generally I'm pretty good at reading things and picking up errors, but certainly worth highlighting that it's important that people keep an eye open. And a good point I think you're making, that if they were related to a change of date, I guess one has to just make a big thing of a change of date and not just slip it in if that's the case. Right. What else was there to say? Oh, just a little comment. I've got the RAYNET-UK DMR dashboard up on the screen. There's an interesting comment there that I was writing down some call signs from that. Very easy to unlock the Y's and the U's from that, from my point of view, anyway. Y's and V's, I should say. They look very, very similar on that. Perhaps I should select a different font. I don't know if that's an option. Okay. Oh, and the last one, I think there was some discussion on the HF one to do with using FL MSG, and I think you were doing something on that, Greg. So I'll have to have a look and see if you said a bit more on that, because I've never got my brain around that one. Okay, I'll let it go round. I do have another event sort of taking place from Q2, but I should be set up to try and do both. But if I suddenly don't appear, it's probably I got dragged off. And apologies if that's the case. But I'll stay on for the moment anyway. Back to you, Greg, G4A NRC, G4KIL.
Golf 4 Kilo India Lima, G4 NRC returning. Trevor should be proud I managed to really log a lot of that, and then you started to get the typos in at the very end. Right, so the comment about fonts on the RAYNET dashboard, if anybody looks at the YouTube videos, if I'm in the right place at the right time, might see I changed my glasses, because with two screens and trying to look off the fringes to the second screen, I have that dashboard off to my right. And with varifocals, it doesn't go very well, so I have to change glasses to something a bit more fixed for doing this, which made me think about how do you highlight the changes, because we have 1 in 5 males are colourblind statistically, So highlighting things of changes or sidebars might help some, but might not actually work for some others. So it's always fun to make sure that people have truly got the message you want them to get for an event. Okay, hopefully we'll get you on the second round. Failing that, yes, acknowledged, have noted down you might not respond because of your conflict. Next to Ian, Golf 3 Zulu Hotel X-Ray, Chief RNRC.
G4 NRC in the group, G3ZHX, and I am on. Yes, I had a internet hiccup at 11 minutes past, and it took me a while to get back in. Yeah, I don't really think I've got anything to contribute on this round, and so I will now hand it back to you. Back to Greg. G4 NRC, this has been G3ZHX, but I'm still online.
G3ZHX, G4NRC. I'll have to find something much more controversial for the second time round then, Ian. Okay, next to Tony then. Good afternoon. Golf 1, Romeo Bravo Oscar, G4NRC, over.
Golf 1, Romeo Bravo Oscar. I'm Tony. I'm Essex RAYNET, I'm kind of the newest member in the group, I guess, to RAYNET. Not long joined, a couple of months ago. Did the Malton Church walk. Unfortunately, I can't do the half marathon that's coming up, but you know, got to start somewhere, I guess. But yeah, I read brief notes. I'm a bit of a freak about that, but that's my job. Was my job, IT project manager type thing. So yeah, I read briefings and try and take notes and things like that. Otherwise, at my age, I always forget anyway. But I'm out here in Saffron Walden, just getting set up. Come back to Radio Ham now, but after a 36-year break, and yeah, so that's me anyway. G1RBO to G4N Romeo Charlie. Great.
G1RBO, G4NRC returning. Okay, Tony. Yes, interesting. We've all got events coming up. Philip's comments about his next event on the 21st does actually prompt me, as I get further down the list of possible victims. West Cheshire RAYNET also has an event on the 21st. We have a half marathon to cover, and it's not going to say fun getting people out. It's just we have so many bank holiday weekends that it feels like when there isn't a bank holiday weekend, somebody's decided to plonk an event in it just to continue to populate May. Good that you read the notes in detail. Keep that way, but I do guess it's because of your background as a project manager. So, all understood. Right, next to Drew. Mike 0, Mike Foxtrot Sierra, G4NRC, over.
G4NRC, M0MFS. Yeah, interestingly, I don't know who commented on the fact that some of the signals were not getting through, and they were getting carried but no audio. I've had to crack the gain down on my MMDVM for the new repeater that I was putting in service. Not seen that problem any time before over the last week, but all of a sudden I needed to reduce the gain in order to decode the audio. But that's now fixed. A side comment, I guess, we've already spoken about it, but GB7FB, thanks to Guy's help, is now on the air and connected to the RAYNET private server on slot 2, which has pretty much taken all my time this last week, so nothing much else to add from Mike 0, Mike Foxtrot 0.
Mike Foxtrot Sierra, G4NRC returning. Okay, I was going to start looking a little harder at MMDVM under the hood, as it were, just because I'm looking up off screen to two simplex hotspots that aren't doing what they should be doing, which is making radio. So what other use could I put them to make things a bit more mobile? And I was also dragging out some spare Raspberry Pis. So yeah, we'll have to have a look on that because I wouldn't even be sure how I'd tweak the gain on MMDVM boards to get audio working right. But got the repeaters up. I haven't actually noticed the extra repeater repair on the dashboard, but I have now just usually look to see that the number of connected peers is up to 73 at the moment for hotspots, which is always a little bit of a blip that happens on a Sunday afternoon as people connect through to us. Okay, 1, 2, 3 on the list so far. So next is Les, Mike 0, Juliet Victor Zulu, G4 and RC over.
G4 and RC, this is Mike 0, Juliet Victor Zulu. Yes, very nice to hear everybody again. I feel as though I've been out of action for months. Watching the Zoom, and it's very nice to see that again. Yeah, the problem here has been, it turns out, a faulty something or other on the Raspberry Pi, but Paul from Derbyshire Dales RAYNET, he spent a week hitting it with relevant hammers and doing whatever Paul did. And I'm now fully functioning. Yes, all okay, thank you very much. Oh, excuse me. Right, apart from that, that's about all I've got to say. I won't be on for the second round, so I'll say bye-bye to everybody. And very nice hearing everybody again. Bye-bye.
Mike 0, Juliet Victor Zulu, G4 and RC returning. Okay, Les, well, good to hear you back. Everything's working fine. I just need to try and find something that can help me be more active. But now it's full-time back at work, it is just harder to have the excuse or opportunity to be side monitoring DMR. Right, next to Alan, Mike 0, Juliet Sierra Alpha, G4 and RC over.
Yes, good afternoon, Greg. Good afternoon, everybody. Nice sunny day here in East Suffolk, surprisingly, because it was supposed to be raining. And it's actually nearly 23 degrees in my shack. And that ain't been above 10 for ages, so that's quite nice here. So sorry, Mike, weather's still good down here in Suffolk. Not much comment on the briefing notes, really. I used to write them, so I used to read them, but I don't now and I don't. We think we need to start putting privacy notices on them to stop them being sent out to willy-nilly to anybody. And try to keep stuff a bit more private within the group, shall we say. But that's a different issue. I have got some sad news. Probably nobody on here will remember him, but it's worth saying anyway. One of our ex-members in East Suffolk, Martin Richmond Hardy, has gone silent key. He was Golf 8 Bravo Hotel Charlie, had out of the blue heart attack and unfortunately didn't survive. He was a member of RAYNET and my local radio club when I started back in 2010, 2011 time. And we used to travel back and forth to the club together. Well, I don't think I ever remember working with him on RAYNET, although he was still a RAYNET member probably up until about 2015, 2016. So sadly missed, particularly on the microwave community, because he was really into Earth, Moon, Earth and astronomy in general. But that's a bit of sad news. I'll try and get someone to send a note up to national news for next week. Back to you, Greg. G4 and I'll see M0 JSA, Suffolk, a bit sad.
Mike 0, Juliet Sierra Alpha, G4 and RC returning. Okay, obviously, yes, sad news of ex-members pass away. I have a similar problem with a work colleague, and then you wind up doing what you've just done, trying to get the news out as far and wide as possible, which is getting harder. A good point there about the privacy notices on, or as you put it, on briefing notes. common materials, and it should be something that's more pervasive around RAYNET. Carrier colour coding, which was set up by the old Centre of Protection for National Infrastructure, but they've just changed their names. And it was a information security sort of marking scheme that if something had a red mark on it, you just didn't tell anybody but that you'd read it. If it was an amber, then you could tell people within a certain community, but not to share it outside that community. And then if it was green, you could publish it wherever you liked. And possibly that's something that does need to go on notes, as you say, just to stop things going out a little bit wider than they should do. It's harder if you look at some of the old Red Cross and maybe some St John notices now, where they include the various public address messages for indicating emergencies in crowds, and you think you don't really want those phrases out in the wild, or shouldn't really have them out in the wild. Okay, let's catch you on the next round. Next on the list formally at the moment is Ian, Mike 0, Oscar Echo Sierra, G4 and RC, over.
This is Ian, Mike 0, Oscar Echo Sierra. I didn't realise this was being recorded on YouTube. This is my first one, so I'm just going to sit back and listen if you don't mind. Mike 0, Oscar Echo Sierra, out.
Oscar Echo Sierra, G4 and RC. Okay, that's all right, Ian. Find out how it goes. Check back in next week as appropriate. The nets are copied across onto YouTube because it was felt to be a way of just taking what was the main newsy bits of the front end of the net and leaving them there for people to listen to if they didn't actually have the opportunity to come on Sunday afternoon and catch it live, as it were. Because we used to have many means of getting news out to the masses, and now we seem to have a struggle with, does it go out on a Friday, does it go out on Facebook? So this is just another one of those sources. So yeah, it's recorded and thrown forward, and maybe even get taken out audio style. We did look, Graham might confirm whether the stats are the same. Viewership does tend to drop off after the first 20 minutes as people hear the check-ins, get the church notices on news, and then don't tend to listen for the in-depth detail of this bit. But okay, no problem, got you marked as out. We did have one station blip in partway through the net, so I'll just take a call. Is there anybody wishing to join the RAYNET DMR activity period on 23531 Pheonix and Brandmeister, or 5023531 RAYNET server? If there is, please call now, G4 and RC, over.
Mike 7, Charlie Bravo X-Ray, Chris, Ipswich, no traffic, in and out, thanks.
Charlie Bravo X-Ray. Good afternoon, Chris. So one of our many listeners and copied in and out, so thanks for that. Okay, everybody's going to have noticed now there's lots less stress on me at the moment because I haven't got to run out for a basketball game, although there is one going on in London at the moment I'm quite interested in, but I can't shout at people, so it doesn't mean the net gets truncated in the normal way. So, back to the top of the list for any comments and anything that's been provoked by the conversation so far. So, Mike, Golf 8, Echo Yankee, G4 and RC, over.
G4 NRC from G8 EEY. Yes, all copied. Sad to hear about Silent Key down there in Suffolk. Yes, when it comes to briefings, I do remember one organisation who sent a brief where they'd taken the previous year's plan and merely redated it. Unfortunately, however, on the event, the route wasn't the same either. Not always a good plan. And the other thing I find, you have to be careful about emails, of how you structure them, because so many people read the first two lines but don't read all the way down to the end, so they miss bits that they needed to see. Interesting effect from technology point of view. at the Ipswich promotion celebration. They decided to use, broadcaster decided to use wireless file transfer, which uses multiple channels on 4G to get their video back. No, it didn't work because the place was full of people on their 4G phones, so there wasn't room for it. Ended up having to use Dropbox. And one thing I have noticed, I don't know whether anybody else has discovered this or whether it's just my little world, but Teams doesn't work anymore after an upgrade overnight. I know that's certainly true on Windows 7, but it doesn't seem to be working on my Windows 10 laptop either. I thought I'd have a quick look, but it says no error, please try later. I don't know whether anybody else has discovered that or experienced that from G8EEY.
Golf 8 Echo Echo Yankee G4 and RC returning. Okay, in reverse order. Teams failure on Windows 10. No, I don't know about that one. I have a potential way of trying. YouTubers have been talking about the so-called $60 laptop, which as usual is £100 over here. But that runs Windows 11. I've been trying, although it's very, very limited in what it can do, I have been trying to use the Office 365 suite through it. So I'll have a look and see if Teams is working. We certainly need it working for the com meeting next Friday. So I shall try raising you if I find an equivalent failure. But in terms of multi-channel 4G, what I've had to take to do at the basketball games in Ellesmere Port is actually turning 4G off and gearing down to 3G. Because the number of people who attend the basketball now, 1,399 people, need to remember the fire certificates, all in one place, tends to smash the local 4G cell and upload and download speeds go through the floor. But if I gear down to 3G, everything was working fine. My bad news is that that town is going to be switched off 3G and go on to 5G in the next 3 months. So who knows what's going to happen. And email structure, yes, I'd read that as well, and it wasn't as far as the first 2 lines actually, Mike. Somebody was proposing you had to effectively put your prioritization or reason for reading the email in the first 2 words of the subject, otherwise you might not get read, which seems particularly harsh and aggressive and something I really should do at work, to ignore emails. Okay, we'll see if anybody else comments on the Teams stuff as we get further down the list. But for now, thanks for that to you. Next to Dave, Mike Romeo 7, Alpha Victor Oscar, G4 and RC, over.
G4 and RC, Mike 7. Mike Romeo 7, Alpha Victor Oscar, I keep forgetting. Yeah, not a great deal to add this end, Greg. Sorry, it was a bit distracting things going on, and Amazon Man's just been and delivered a late birthday present for the good lady. It was a birthday yesterday, so I believe we had a big party in London for her. Yeah, I'll give you a call on the landline if that's still okay at the end of the net and have a quick chat, or on the mobile, which is mobile's probably better. Quick chat at the end of the net. Back to you, Greg. Mike Romeo 7, Alpha Victor Oscar.
Try that again. Mike Romeo 7, Alpha Victor Oscar, G4 and RC. Yes, I think we're quite good. We've actually managed to avoid getting Amazon deliveries on Sunday now, because that would previously have been a distraction for me too. Yes, happy birthday to Debs, and look forward to the call post-net. I am by the RAYNET phone, and my mobile, the house phone, is somewhere in here somewhere. So, yeah, have that call with you after the net. Graham, G7NEH, noting you've got the Mobilink M1DDN is dithering between a Mobilink or a DigiLink, whatever one, DigiRig, that was it, that's the other one. So he might be interested in your observations when he gets round to it. G7NEH, G4 and RC, over.
for an RC G780H. In the middle of chopping onions up at the moment. Yeah, okay, all noted, Greg. I'll let Mike know how I get on with it. That's not a problem. The setup was pretty simple enough. No issues with that. So yeah, not a lot else to report at this end. And you were quite correct on your comment before about the time people listen to the nets. That's about right. I'll pull some more stats down and see if that's changed. I wouldn't have thought it would have done. Anyway, thanks for doing the net today, and we'll catch you in the week. G4 and RC, G780H.
G4 and RC returning. Okay, yeah, be interesting to have that beta for next week. Actually, before Friday it'd be useful, then it's something else I can drop into the com. It's a fairly open committee management meeting this Friday, so no team or zone reports, but I have got a few things I'll be firing up for general discussion or highlighting, so it won't be boring. Also, I'll let you know how I get on with these Arden microtic access points. I'll have to flash the firmware onto them and get that done. I only got them because the price on Amazon started to drop to less than the stupid prices of during COVID. So it was back at a point where I thought I could get away with it. Okay, 7-3 to you, and Trevor for final. G4KUJ, G4 and RC, over.
G4 and RC in the group, G4KUJ. Okay, all noted all round. My system here has behaved impeccably since you were calling in the G1s. No dropouts or anything like that. My initial thought was the internet, so I quickly went on and checked did a speed check on my usual source, which was showing 3 milliseconds ping time, 650 meg down and 95 up. So that should have been enough for DMR. A few thousand times, I guess. Nothing further except say I've just wound up Teams on Windows 10 on my laptop, and it seems to be working okay with me. G4 NRC, G4KUJ.
G4KUJ, G4 NRC returning. Okay, ping time and latency, I'm sure they're not totally analogous to each other. But yes, on bandwidth terms, as you say, that's way more than enough. Before 3G totally dies around here, I do want to take the 3G GSM board I've got on top of Raspberry Pi and see if I can actually do some what is now deemed low data rate stuff, but still probably more than enough to support a hotspot, and see if it'll work before the system gets taken away. Okay, noted Windows 10 Teams is working for you, so GATUI, it could be you rather than anybody else. So, if he's 10 minutes into his other event now, G4KIL, are you still with us? G4 and RC, over.
Yes, from G4KL, yes indeed. Yeah, I managed to monitor it sort of remotely while you were talking, and then come back for this little interesting interview, which I'm glad I was able to do. I got a heads up on the Teams. We'll certainly check that. We were going to try and use I was going to try and use Teams links to our FM net tomorrow rather than Zoom. So, but I have got one of my colleagues that said they would give me a trial with it earlier in the day. So we'll definitely try and do that. Make sure that is working. My only other comment, I think, at the moment is that our next event, 21st, we have got it on the Please Help on the RAYNET News. I had a look there. So if people are able to help with that, we would appreciate it. I think we need the same number of bodies as we needed for our last one. As I say, we did struggle with the last one. Okay then. I'll probably sign there, Greg. Actually, and I'll probably will carry on listening to the end. But you know, and only call me back if necessary, as it were. Thanks for running the net, and hopefully speak to you again next week. G4NRC, G4KIL.
G4KIL, G4NRC. Well, we've only got 4 stations left on the list to go through, and I've just seen the basketball score, so I've got a lot of shouting to do for the second leg of the game tomorrow night, as we're losing. Okay, 7-3, Philip. You've got me thinking now to make sure that my own group's events are shown properly on the website, because it could be the 21st is going to be a busy day. All right, next to Ian, if he's got anything further to contribute, and there's been no more internet hiccups. Golf 3, Zulu Hotel X-Ray, G4NRC, over.
This is Golf 3 Zulu Hotel X-Ray, G4NRC in the group. Yes, in fact, I had something last time and I forgot to say it regarding Teams. I've had no end of problems with Teams. During the COVID period and after, I've had lots of different connections with Zoom, all of which proceeded no problem at all. But my local EPO is using Teams to run the LRF virtual meetings, and I have taken up to half an hour to get on, despite starting before the meeting opened. So, in fact, I was joining the meeting half an hour after it started. So I'd been trying for 45 minutes on one occasion just to get in. So I'm not very fond of Teams, and that's running Windows 10 on several occasions, and certainly before the latest update. So I would not recommend Teams. That may be a personal opinion. Regarding briefing notes, if there is a significant change, it probably ought to appear in the email, which would otherwise just refer people to the attached briefing notes. That'd be the way I'd do it anyway. Then you have time to read the briefing notes while you're waiting for the net to start, amongst other things. A comment to the other Ian, M0 Oscar X-ray, sorry, Oscar Echo Sierra, can't even read my writing here. I would suggest if you're bothered about being recorded, you just call in and out so that we know that you are able to connect, and it will keep Greg happy because he likes to see the numbers go up. Calling people on the telephone. I heard somebody the other day saying, I'm going to call your mobile, and then a bit later he said, I'll speak to you on the landline. Now that is, of course, possible, but I don't think that's quite what he meant. The general term is GSTN, Golf Sierra Tango Network, which is the General Switch Telephone Network. It's an acronym that replaced PSTN when people started going off the wired networks. It's useful to know. And finally, revealing my background in lots of comms over GSM, or 2G as it's otherwise known, there is an awful lot of machine-to-machine circuits on GSM. I think it will take them a long time to close that network down. I've heard 2030 suggested as a possibility. Who knows? Ofcom may just say you'll do it, and I think you'll find a lot of burglar alarms go off the air at that point, not to mention credit card validation. And there are, of course, other things that I don't know about. And with that, I shall say good afternoon to you all, 73, and thank you for running the net. Greg, this is G3ZHX handing it back.
Three Zulu Hotel X-Ray, G4NRC. Yes, good call on the privacy issues for Ian's benefits. But nobody ever comes on this net to make me happy, I'm sure. That's something I don't even get at work, Ian, to be fair. Also agree, yes, changing to briefing notes, bringing out the covering email is good. 2G, yes, I know that one's going to stay in place for a long while because I think it is equally down to how the various smart meters for all the country south of Leeds have to get their data back. So smart meters south of Leeds, and I don't know why it stuck with me that was the cut-off point. was predominantly over the phone system, but anything north of Leeds, it is done over a separate dedicated wireless network on more like VHF or UHF. So 2G is going to be in there for a long, long while until all those smart meters get swapped out. Okay, thanks for the input. I do notice that the thing about Teams, all video conferencing seems to be Marmite. Some people like it, some hate it. We've all got our favourites. And notable, we don't use Teams for streaming the video back for this onto YouTube, for example. We use something else. Okay, 7-3 to you. Tony, down to you again. Golf 1, Romeo, Bravo, Oscar, G4 NRC, over.
G4 NRC, G1 RBA. No, I've got not much to add. I'm just interesting listening to what's going on. As the newbie in the group, I just...
G1 RBO, G4 NRC, over.
RBO, can you hear me?
RBO, G4 NRC, can now. Tony, you went out in a blaze of glory on the word newbie, showing 7% packet loss, and then we missed the rest. G1 RBO, G4 NRC, over.
G4 NRC, G1 RBA. Yeah, the radio decided to turn off. It's just a little handheld I've got. And it decided to go flat quite quick. So, bit of sorting out there. But yeah, no, I was just saying, being a newbie, just sort of listening and learning, really, and trying to sort of get my head around it all. Passed the test in 87. 85, but all this new radio digital stuff is quite interesting. But then I was in IT for 7.5 years, so it's not too far out of reach. Just got to learn it all. But as for RAYNET, yeah, just getting my head around it all really. Again, we're looking to put a repeater at my QTH because we haven't got any other G1 RBA.
G1 RBO, G4 NRC. Okay, so yes, again, different interesting, but it certainly helps on the net. If you're looking to put a repeater at your QTH, might be worth mentioning that again next week when Graham G798 is on. Graham's repeater was briefly, and now I think a mistake he admits, in his bedroom, and when the fans came on, it was getting a little bit noisy. So things got done to make it quieter. So if you're going to have something persistently providing a service, always worth thinking about where you're going to put it. Okay, 7-3 to Tony, and before your radio decides to have a mind of its own again, 2 stations left. Drew, Mike 0, Mike Foxtrot Sierra, G4 NRC, over.
NRC M0 MFS. Yeah, I don't think I've got an awful lot to add, other than I've spent most of the net fine-tuning the gain on the MMDVM board, which is MMDVM board from Phil Zimmerman, which has 2 or 3 multi-tone pots, but I think I've finally got it perfect. So it's been a useful net for that, if nothing else. 73 to everybody. Thanks for running the net, Greg. Thanks for doing the live stream, whoever. And from Mike Foster here, till next week.
Mike 0, Mike Foxtrot Sierra, G4 NRC. Okay, thanks for the explanation on the MMDVM board. I think I've got something similar to that I picked up at Friedrichshafen. but it was the time when MMDVM boards had to be slapped on top of Arduinos. I really must get it out again and press it into service. So I'll have a fifth way of getting onto the net from here. Okay, have a good week. And finally, and with apologies, but it is just the way it goes, Alan, Mike Zero, Juliet Sierra Alpha gets to be the last station on the net. G4 and RC, over.
Yeah, there's no need to apologise. I'm used to being on the end of the net, and that is my natural position in life. Not much more to add, but I have got an anecdote about briefing notes, which I will share with you all. There's also the issue where the person on the duty doesn't read the notes beyond you are on the same checkpoint as you were last year. We did do a long distance cycle ride for hospice, funny enough in Essex, and he duly turned up on his checkpoint and sent the first batch of cyclists on the wrong route because he hadn't noticed the route had been changed. Not that he should have been directing anybody anyway, but that's another story. He's no longer a member of our group, and funny enough, we're no longer doing the horse ride, the cycle ride. So there you go. It's not only a case of reading it, it's understanding it as well. It's been a nice little net today. Thank you very much for that, and wish you all the best 33. Thank you for doing it, Greg. No pressure with the basketball tonight, which is nice. And go back and watch the Coronation concert tonight, and watch them sitting down for 2 hours and listening to music I probably don't like. No 73 to all. M0JSA back to G4 NRC and the group.
Zero Juliet Sierra Alpha G4 and RC. I know you're used to your place at the back end of the net, but do keep trying to be sure you're not the last one making the commentary. Yes, we haven't had that where people send riders in the wrong direction on a RAYNET basis up here necessarily. We did have it with some events organisers one time that had the same problem. And on a 100-mile cycle ride, it became a lot more frustrating for them. So, okay, thanks for that, Alan, and we'll draw the net to a close so then I can have my conversation with AVO. So, thanks everyone for taking time out of your schedules to participate in the net today. Be careful, have a good week, enjoy your extra day off tomorrow, and until next Sunday afternoon at 1600 local time, I'll close the RAYNET-UK weekly activity net and return the talk groups to being an open net rather than a directed net. 7-3 all, this is Golf 4 November Romeo Charlie now closing and reversing to my normal call sign of Golf 0 Delta Uniform Bravo. Bye bye.